It's Fan Fiction Friday. Let's see what Mariners trades you cooked up this week. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, December 6, 2024. This is Teddy Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's Fan Fiction Friday, the show where you submit your Mariners trade ideas, and we grade them on the 20/80 scale based on creativity, uniqueness, and viability. Before we get into your trade, shout out to our title sponsor today, Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, that's LOCKEDON MLB, for $20 off your first purchase. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. All you have to do is click the link in the description of this episode to check that out. So kicking us off here on Fan Fiction Friday is Ross. He has a deal with the Orioles for a player that you've started to talk about a little bit over the last few days, Colby. Ramon Urias, who, of course, is the brother of Luis Urias. Also, pitching prospect Trace Bright is in the deal going to the Mariners for Logan Evans.
Yeah, I've talked about Urias a little bit over the last couple of days. I've taken to coin him dollar store Alec Bohm because when you look at the players and what they're like capable of, it's very similar. Both guys are pretty consistently 105 to 115 WRC plus. Both guys in the totality of their careers have really inconsistent defensive metrics. Urias was a very good third baseman until a couple of years ago, and the last couple of years have been bad. And Bohm is kind of the opposite, where a couple of years ago he was very bad, and this last year, for the first time in his entire career, he was pretty good defensively. But, not a lot of home runs, a lot of doubles, that type of thing. The one thing that Bohm does have going for him is that he does get more at-bats, more plate appearances than Urias does. Yep. Pretty much, Bohm is getting between 550 and 600 every year. Urias is getting around 300.
Yeah, so, Urias is basically a part-time player.
Right. But again, the difference here is that Urias is making $3 million. Mm-hmm. Bohm is making $8 million. The Phillies are reportedly asking for Logan Gilbert or George Kirby for Alec Bohm. And I think you can get Ramon Urias for less than Logan Evans, actually. So it's a difference of cost. And again, if we're looking specifically at the bat and just kind of the profile, now, can Urias do what he does over 300 plate appearances? Can he do that if you make the everyday guy? I don't know.
Yeah.
The Orioles didn't seem to think so. But then again, the Orioles have an absolutely loaded infield. So it's not, apples and oranges. But again, considering the cost, both monetarily and in trade capital, I think Urias is a fine substitute. Hence, a dollar for Alec Bohm. So I think you're overpaying a little bit. I don't know enough about Bright to give you anything. I know he's been in AAA and missing some bats, but he has some walk issues as well. Not great stuff.
But it also kind of feels like Logan Evans is in this deal because you're getting Bright.
Right.
And I don't really need Bright. I have Logan Evans.
Right. I mean, again, if it is Morales or Evans even for Urias, because I think you get 3 years of Urias, if I'm not mistaken. He's R1. 2. Okay. So 2 years of Urias for, kind of a number 4 ceiling starting pitcher, at least as they sit right now, who hasn't made his major league debut yet. It's not egregious. I think it's a little bit of an overpay. I think you're probably one ladder rung too high in the prospect, range that you're looking for. But I think Urias is an interesting addition if you're going to go cheaper at third base. Maybe if you do end up acquiring Horner and you have to kind of skimp at third base a little bit, just go get a Urias and pay him $3 million. And then you have him and Dylan Moore kind of share that spot for a while. So I'll give it probably a 50. I think you're overpaying a little bit here, but I don't think it's egregious. So 45 to 50.
Yeah, I'll give it a 50. I don't really need Bright, so if I can lower the cost from Logan Evans to, what have you, if I just remove Bright from the deal, then I'm probably just doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like in general, this is fine. So yeah, I'll give it a 50. Yeah, I do have some concerns about like, I mean, because in this instance, you would probably be giving Arias, or at least planning on it from the start, to give him 400, 500 plate appearances.
Yeah.
What does that look like considering he's only, I mean, his career high in plate appearances is 445, and he was a 106 WRC plus that year, which is more than fine. He was basically a 3-win player by Fangraphs standards that year. He crushes lefties. He can hold his own against righties. So I mean, yeah, there's a possibility that even with the increase of plate appearances, he's going to be at least a league average bat for you.
Sure. Like I'd rather give him everyday reps than somebody like Andy Ibanez.
Yeah,
the splits are bigger with Ibanez essentially than they are with.
Well, yeah, and Ibanez is a weak side platoon through and through. Like he can't hit righties at all.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, so Arias, I think is fine, especially as like a fallback. If you're not able to get, Bohm or whoever. So yeah, and if it cost me, even if it was just Logan Evans for Arias straight up, I'd be fine with that. For 2 years of Arias,
you'd be like, okay.
Well, because at the very least, Arias has proven, and he's got a fairly long track record now, that he is, at worst a solid, role player.
Yeah,
that can give you solid offensive production over the course of 300 plate appearances. So yeah, that helps. CJ has a deal here with the Cubs. The Mariners get Cody Bellinger and Nico Horner for Luis Castillo, Mitch Garver, the Comp A pick that the Mariners landed yesterday, which we talked about a little bit towards the end of yesterday's episode, Ty Pete, and Logan Evans. To me, when I read this, it comes off as like Castillo's a negative in this deal.
Right.
And
like
if Castillo is going to be viewed as a negative because of the money, then I don't want to trade Luis Castillo.
Well, and I certainly don't want to trade him for Cody Bellinger because Bellinger essentially was Luis Castillo from the offensive side this year. Above average, but not great. Coming off of what was a down year because of it. They both dealt with some injuries. Castillo much more minor than what Bellinger did, but either way, I think they both ended up being right around 2.5 win players. So like if Castillo is a negative in this market where pitchers are getting paid out of their minds,
worse pitchers than
right,
Castillo,
then Bellinger is certainly a negative. So to me, yeah, it feels like you're over because you're not even saving that much money in this trade either. You're actually probably net even because Bellinger's making about $3 million more than Castillo is.
Yeah.
And Garver's making about $2 million more than
it's if you want to factor in Bellinger's $5 million buyout, then it's 43 and him and Horner combined for the next year plus about $43 million, and then Castillo and Garver
37.
Yeah, like 30. Yeah. So you're still adding. Buyout. So you're still adding payroll here when you factor in Bellinger's buyout. And on top of that, I have to give up the Comp A pick, which is basically the equivalent of like a top 7 prospect in the Mariners farm system, and probably a top 5 prospect for like.
I've kind of landed on like it's like another Harry Ford is kind of like where I've landed on how to value that, but admittedly, that's a guess.
Yeah. And then I also have to give up Ty Pete, and what was the other piece? Was it Logan Evans?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, I think this is too much from the Mariners side.
It just feels like and by the way, you've added $6 million in payroll. You've traded a lot of, well, not a lot, but you traded some of your better assets here. You still need a number 4 starter, number 3 starter, and now you need a backup catcher too. And I don't know if you guys have seen the catching market. Danny Jansen just signed his 1-year deal.
Yeah.
It's pretty barren already. Like these catchers are getting scooped up really fast. And I don't think you can sit here and
say, how much did Jansen get? Do you know? Did we see it?
$8.5 million.
Okay.
Which is a really nice deal for Tampa. They desperately needed a catcher. But anyways, yeah, so you still need a backup catcher, and it's not going to be Harry Ford. He's not ready by opening day to be the backup catcher, and you don't want him to sit 6 days a week anyways. And you have to go get another starter. And again, what do number 4 starters get? I don't know. Matt Boyd just got $14.5 million a year off of 8 starts.
Yeah.
And you've already added $6 million to your payroll.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think this works really at all. Even if the valuation is accurate, I don't think the Mariners would make this trade. I just think they look at this and they'd be like, look,
I don't think they should. Because again, I the way this reads to me is as if like Castillo is viewed as kind of a wash, if not a negative.
Right.
Because of the money. And he's not, especially relative to, what the Yusei Kikuchis and the Luis Severinos of the world are getting right now. So, yeah.
Frankie Montas got $18 million a year.
Yeah.
Like with a near 5 ERA.
You're telling me that the $6 million difference between Montas and Castillo is essentially negligible? No, it's not. Yeah.
So, yeah, it just feels a little too rich for me.
Yeah.
When you
I'm going to go 30
money,
on this.
Go 35.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into more of your trades here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. So I used to live in New Mexico, and down in New Mexico, there are 0 pro sports teams, and a lot of bands and artists that I listen to skip going there more often than not. So when I moved to Toronto, where there's a baseball team, a basketball team, a hockey team, even a soccer team, and there's great music being played every night in the city, I was right in my element. When I want to catch a ball game or my wife and I want to see a band, I always get my tickets through Gametime. And that was the case well before Gametime sponsored our network and before I even joined the network, because it is truly the best ticketing service out there, hands down. I truly believe that. And now it's getting even better thanks to Gametime Picks. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I can just go on the app, it'll show me the best deal right away, it'll show me the exact view I'll have, and most importantly, it'll tell me exactly what I'm going to pay with Gametime's all-in pricing, so there are no annoying little fees that pop up at the last second. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, that's LOCKEDONMLB, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Fan Fiction Friday. We're looking at your Mariners trade ideas. Dorian has a deal here with the Guardians. Josh Naylor and Nick Sandlin for Harry Ford, Logan Evans, and Michael Arroyo.
It's 1 year of Naylor.
It is 1 year of Naylor. How much club control does Sandlin have?
I think he is R2, if I'm not mistaken. Might be R1. But either way, Sandlin is a middle reliever. That's who he is. So it's 1 year of Naylor, and then you get a couple years of a middle relief type. Pretty good one in Sandlin. He's got some funky delivery and a lot of interesting pitches and all that stuff. So like Sandlin is interesting.
He was worth negative 0.7 F4 this year. Yeah. How did that happen? With a 3.75 ERA and a 10.61 Ks per nine. I mean, he did post a 4.21 walks per nine, but
right.
5.23 FIP.
Yeah. So interesting stuff on Sandlin. Obviously didn't have a very good year this year. Naylor.
Yeah. I'd have to do more digging on Sandlin and figure out what happened there, but
right. But again, he's kind of a distant second piece here. Like that's like Logan Evans for Nick Sandlin is like how to break this deal down. And that's probably fine, but I feel like you have
Arroyo and Ford for 1 year of Naylor.
Yeah. I don't think that your valuation is off. I just think that the Mariners wouldn't do that for 1 year of Naylor.
Yeah.
And Naylor's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but it's 1 year. It's a guy who's kind of, went the Mitch Haniger route of like, hey, yeah, I could, hit 270 with a 350 on base and hit 20 home runs, but for me to get paid, I got to hit 30 home runs. So now I'm going to hit, 250 with a 330 on base instead, which is still, again, very good player, very good hitter.
Yeah.
Good hitter. But 1 year of that guy and all you're getting is the offense. You're not getting any base running or defense or anything like that. And it's going to cost you Ford and Arroyo, maybe for one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I think both of them is just a slight overpay, particularly when you're probably already overpaying for Samlin, who, again, I do like despite the numbers. But I don't know, it just feels a little off to me.
Yeah, I'll give it a 45.
Yeah,
I think the Mariners, if they're being asked to give up Ford and Arroyo for 1 year of Naylor, they're probably going, we'll just give Carlos Santana or Justin Turner, $8 million or $7 million or whatever. Man.
Yeah, I think that's probably the route they would go.
Yeah, so 45.
I think the valuation's in the ballpark, though. I just don't think the Mariners would pay.
Yeah,
like what Josh Naylor would probably require.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go 45 as well.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap things up here on Fan Fiction Friday in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Fan Fiction Friday, and we got a couple more trades from you guys that we're going to go over here. JS has a deal, it's a 3-team deal with the White Sox and the Orioles, not the Cubs, the Orioles. The White Sox are coming away with Harry Ford, Colt Emerson, Colby Mayo, and Logan Evans. That is a hell of a haul for the Chicago White Sox. 2
top 10 prospects and, top 100 guy, couple fringe top 100 guys.
Oh my God. I just saw the
trade beforehand, did you?
No, I just kind of copied it and pasted it on the background to get ready for this show. Holy moly! Look at this haul for the Mariners.
Swinging big.
Good Lord. Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert, and Jordan Westbrook to the Mariners, and George Kirby and Gregory Santos to the Orioles. So the Orioles are giving up Colby Mayo and Jordan Westbrook for George Kirby and Gregory Santos. Well, I love George Kirby.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably dead right there.
Yeah. I don't
Westbrook
think
and Mayo.
Colby Mayo. Yeah.
Like one of them, sure.
Yeah.
Both of them.
No. I gotta give you props for
it's creative.
Shooting for the moon here. But
it's unique. You gotta give them it's just,
yeah.
Not only is it a 3-team deal, it's with Baltimore.
I see why you picked this.
Yeah. I think you could kind of see the logic of the trade. You're like, oh, well, I mean, if the Mariners trade George Kirby, but they replace him with Crochet, like, sure, they lose club control, but I mean, coming off your Crochet that's probably a net even. Right?
Well, if you're the Mariners and you're giving up Kirby, Emerson, and Ford and Evans, we'll throw Evans into there as well.
Sure.
You should be getting back a haul, right? But and Santos,
Santos,
and Santos. Like, you should be getting a haul back.
And they did.
They did. I mean, like the White Sox and the Mariners are big winners here. I mean, like the Orioles are getting George Kirby, so like don't get me wrong, it's not like they're losing this deal, but for Westberg and Mayo, I just don't think they would do that. I mean, like
ask for one.
part of me feels like I'm like complaining about like explosions in space and Star Wars. Like, look, like none of this is happening. So why am I complaining about this one thing, this one aspect of,
Mario
the trade?
shoot fireballs when he's underwater.
Yeah. But
I think it would be reasonable-ish if
you've left me speechless here.
Yeah, I mean, Ty's having the same reaction I did when Colton told me his ridiculous Chris Bryant trade on his offseason.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, Safeway Fred Myers or whatever they were getting back in that deal. Yeah, I feel like if it was like one of Mayo or Westberg, and then you kind of probably I think the Mariners would probably have to add more to this to get the White Sox to do it if Mayo's not involved. And at that point, if you're the Mariners, it's like, look, we're already giving up Ford, Emerson, Evans, Kirby, and Santos. Like, yeah, I don't think the White Sox are giving up Crochet and Gilbert. And Robert, in one deal, unless they're sure that they're getting overpaid, like they're getting a haul, and
they're getting a haul.
Deal, they are.
Yeah. They're getting a haul. No, the White Sox would do this.
I am very confident in that they would. Yes, absolutely. I mean, they're getting Emerson and Mayo. That could be the starting left side of their infield for the next decade. Well, they're the White Sox. They're not going to pay those guys. So for the next 5 years.
Yeah. The funny thing about this trade is like, I think two of these teams would actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think the Orioles would do it.
Again, if you took out Mayo and maybe the Orioles give up one of their other prospects, but the problem is that
Bradfield or someone like that. Maybe,
but even then, like at that point, do the White Sox do it? Maybe they still do. They really like Emerson.
Yeah.
But it feels like they would only do this trade because they're getting Emerson and Mayo. But
I'm considering something crazy here for this trade.
Oh no.
I'm considering something really crazy here.
It's interesting and it is unique and it is very rare that Ty is left speechless by anybody but myself.
I'm feeling kind of dangerous right now with the grade that I might give this.
I'm going to give it a 55 with the big chunk being taken away from it.
It has to at least be 60.
I think the viability here is
the fact that like two of these teams would actually probably do this. Like, I think that earns a 60.
I think that the viability is like so bad.
Yeah.
That it has to drop it.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Like it. I think I'm being pretty generous by only dropping it half a grade.
Sure.
So like I'm gonna go 55. Again, I think your big hang up here is that the Orioles, even though they're getting George Kirby, they're not giving up Mayo and Westberg because, simply put, if the Orioles want to upgrade their rotation and they're willing to trade Mayo or Westberg, they can get Crochet. And the Mariners don't need to be in this deal.
All right. I'm talking myself down. I'm going to give it a 60. I was legitimately thinking a 70. I was legitimately thinking a 70.
So this might be like Ty's most favorite trade we've ever gotten on Fan Fiction Friday.
Because I'm looking at it. It's insane, but it's also like, know what? Like, yeah,
like you can look at it and you can be like, okay, like this is a little off, but like maybe. I mean, you're not getting 2 years of Crochet. You're getting 4 years of Kirby? Like, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
So
65. Screw it.
You keep on bouncing back and forth.
I'll split the difference. 65. I don't care about the viability aspect of it with this. This is fun. This is really fun. Good job, JS. I'm proud of you.
It's so unhinged that Ty has left his morals. Like his grading morals. He's like, yeah, screw the rubric.
Yeah. What an insane trade. I love that one. That's great.
I thought you might like it.
Good job picking that one.
Mm-hmm. Good job coming up with it, JS.
So we got another 3-team deal here from our buddy Isaac. Mm-hmm. The Mariners get Steven Kwan and Andres Gimenez in cash, $25 million cash. The Guardians get George Kirby, the comp round A selection, and Aiden Curry. And the Rangers get Mitch Garver, the full salary, Ben Williamson, and Michael Morales.
No, I'm not interested. As much as I like Steven Kwan, I'm not interested in Gimenez. It's going to cost me the comp round A pick.
And Kirby.
It's going to cost and Kirby. No, because now Isaac talked to us on our Patreon show, and I know he's a big Steven Kwan fan, and he also is a big, you kind of have to trade from the rotation guy. I don't agree with him on that part. I do agree that Steven Kwan would be a phenomenal fit.
For what they want this offense to be, absolutely, and the ballpark and all that. Yeah.
The problem with Gimenez is that $25 million basically pays for the last year of his contract, and you're still on the hook for 3 more years. And that contract is going from $5 million this last year to $15 million this upcoming year to $21 million the year after. So while the money does help, you're still talking about a second baseman who has been who's trending down offensively and was well below average there this year. An elite defender, probably the best defensive second baseman in baseball, maybe the best defensive player in all of baseball, just regardless of position. But again, I have to give up George Kirby, a comp round A pick, and Ben Williamson. Kirby for Kwan straight up, I'd still rather have George Kirby. But I think I understand the logic behind that, that swap. But again, now it's a comp round A pick, Ben Williamson, Michael Morales for Andres Gimenez, so that I can kind of unload 1 year of the Mitch Garver contract. It just feels like I'm paying too much to unload Garver's contract. And then again, oh, by the way, I still need a starting pitcher, a number 3 starting pitcher, and I need a backup catcher now. I do have money to spend, though. I do have some money. So it's just a little bit off for me. I don't like spending all that on Gimenez just to kind of clear some
well, and it
stuff.
feels like the Rangers just exist here to take on Garver, which I understand, but
right. I mean, but I would not trade Ben Williamson to clear the, $11.5, $12 million that Mitch Garver's making this year. Because again, I still need a backup catcher. And I think there's a decent chance that Garver can rebound and have some legitimate role with this Mariners team. And Ben Williamson, pretty sure he's a big leaguer. A really good one? I don't know. Probably not.
A useful one, maybe.
Yes, a useful one. So yeah, it just feels a little bit, I feel like the Mariners are giving up just a little bit too much, mostly to dump the Mitch Garver salary. And I just, and again, I'd rather have Kirby than Kwan, although I totally understand that part. Yeah. So I think for me.
Well, and if you're also getting Gimenez, then yeah.
Yeah. I think what you would do with the money would be incredibly important.
Right. But that's not.
Because if you're getting, I don't know, Anthony Santon or Christian Walker, right? Let's say this allows you to sign Christian Walker and you're trading Kirby, the comp round A, Garver, blah, 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 and you're getting Kwan, Gimenez, and Christian Walker. As a result, that's more interesting to me. But ultimately, I'm going to go 40. I'll go 40, 45, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. It's kind of leaning towards a 50, but I'll split the difference.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll split the difference of a 45 and a 50. I'm somewhere in there. I'm somewhere in there. 47.5.
Yeah, it's. I mean, my main takeaway from this is the Rangers make off like bandits. So,
yeah,
they contribute very little to this trade and get. I mean, to be fair, it's not like they're getting an elite player or anything like that, but they're getting a couple solid prospects and a pretty decent bounce back guy that they know works in their ballpark and in their clubhouse.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, the Rangers aspect and the Garver aspect kind of feels unnecessary here. I feel like you could still make this deal between the Guardians and the Mariners, and you wouldn't have especially if you're getting $25 million from the Guardians.
By the way, hurts the viability score. The Guardians aren't sending you $25 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it was just Kirby and the comp round A pick for Kwan and Gimenez and the money, that would be, I think, more in line with, something that's realistic. So very interesting. But just feels like you're overvaluing Kwan a little bit and you're overvaluing Gimenez.
Well, and I feel like you're trying to do almost everything in one trade.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Right,
you know what? Bonus for being a 3-team trade too. So I will go. Yeah, I think between 45 and 50 is appropriate.
Yeah. All right. Last deal of the day comes from Matthew. It's a 1-for-1 with the Diamondbacks. Andres Munoz for Jordan Lawler. You want to take the shot on Lawler? Former, top 6 pick?
It's nice to have a simple 1-for-1, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the last couple trades. It's
nice to have a little bit of a breather.
Very basic. Yes or no.
Yeah.
I like Lawler.
I do too.
I don't think I want to take the shot with Munoz, though.
Yeah, I think if I'm trading Munoz, I want an established major leaguer. Yeah.
I do really like Lawler a lot. And he's probably ready to be challenged at the major league level. He had a cup of coffee last year.
Not last year, 2023.
Okay. Yeah. So
last year he was hurt.
Yeah. I like Lawler. And is he a better prospect than Colt Emerson, who's also a shortstop? Probably depends on who you ask, but yeah, he's closer to the big leagues too, so that helps. And obviously, you could just move Emerson to third, and like the idea that you're out or that you're infield by 2025, or by I don't know what, June of 2026, could be Cole Young at second, Jordan Lawler at short, and Colt Emerson at third, or put them in whatever position you want. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Super intriguing. I just don't think I'm quite willing to do that yet. But if they did, if this came across the ticker, that would be a fascinating trade to break down. And it would probably be one where our opinions would change as you and I would talk it out, because this is one of those trades where if it happens, you and I have to sit down and counterpoint, I
can talk myself into this.
Yeah, for sure. I can talk myself into it either way. And I just don't know where I would land the minute it happens. So, probably a 50.
I'm gonna give this a 60.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. These trades have been good today.
That's what I'm saying, man. There were a lot of other good ones too that didn't make the cut. So good job, guys.
Yeah. This might be our best Fan Fiction Friday ever, to be honest. Now, I don't remember every single Fan Fiction Friday we've done, but this is
Ty's absolute favorite episode to record.
But there's some weeks where they're all stinkers. This is the complete opposite of that.
You guys have been inspired by the mere mention of an everyday player coming to Seattle, potentially.
Yeah. So,
heck, honestly, when we do this next week, if we don't get enough good questions in the new one, we might just go back and dig through this week's pile and find some that are still relevant, because there were other good ones. And I try to find variety. I didn't want 6 Cubs trades and all that. So this was it's a good week, guys. Nicely done.
Yeah. This is very thought provoking, and I think it's realistic. I think the Diamondbacks, especially with Sewald exiting, and they've had other, and obviously Sewald wasn't their closer. He lost that job. But again, Sewald exiting, and they've had some pitching issues. If you throw Andres Munoz their way, they're probably looking at that all right.
And they still have Perdomo, they still have Marte, they still have Suarez. Munoz is really cheap this year. He starts to get more expensive over the next couple of years, but still well below market value. And they're all options too. So Munoz stinks, or if he gets hurt or whatever, you aren't on the hook for the rest of the entire salary. You can kind of pick and choose when you want to hop out on this. So yeah, I think this is the type of player the Mariners would ask for if they were going to trade Munoz. And the Diamondbacks do seem like a team that are in the middle of a window.
Yep.
Would value not only the club control, but the relative cheapness of Andres Munoz. And they have a little bit of excess here in the middle infield. So yeah, I think this is an interesting deal. Again, it just if it ever happened, I could talk myself into a 60, I could talk myself into a 40. 45. Well, probably no lower than a 45. Like I would never hate a trade like this, but
No.
it's super interesting. Like the farthest I would probably go would be like, I wish they would have gotten a more established guy. So drop 45, but
this is really good. The only thing that like keeps it from being an even higher score for me is just like, yeah, it's the hesitancy. Like, is this really what the Mariners should do? But
chances are, if there was ever an 80 grade trade, one of the sides would never do it. You know what I mean? Like both sides have to assume some risk.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, this is really good. This is really good. Yeah, a lot of these trades were really, really strong.
High's given a 65 and a 60 today.
And I was considering a 70 at one point.
So,
yeah.
I mean, like,
have we ever given out a 70? Maybe. We've done
early
this
on when we were still like trying to like.
Yeah, we've done this show for 3 years now.
It's been 3 years, Fan Fiction Friday.
I think we've done this.
It's been like a year one thing for us.
I think so. I think it's been 2 or 3. I think it's been 2 or 3 years of doing this. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously off and on, there will be stretches where we don't do Fan Fiction Friday, but yeah, we've done a lot of these, and I don't know. I can't remember if we've ever given out a 70 or anything like that, but yeah, I don't even really, to be honest with you guys, I don't even know what my criteria is for a 70, 75, 80. So, I just kind of vibe out on this show, but
if you guys want a 70, I would recommend putting Brett Beatty in your trades going forward.
That's a quick way to get a 20. That's a very quick way to get a 20.
Brett Beatty is Ty's Emerson Hancock.
Yeah. No, he is. He really is. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. Anyway. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. This was a lot of fun. Thank you all for all of your trades. Sorry to, the many of you that submitted trades that we weren't able to get to on this episode. Maybe we'll revisit some of them though, next week. So yeah, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day and a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you next time. Peace.